Hey there, happy painters, and we are back. You may have seen the color mixing portion of this painting, and if not, I would definitely suggest you take a look at that. But if you're just diving in, what we're doing today is I'm going to do a painting of red pepper, and it's going to be a little more of a violent painting than I've ever done before. This red pepper is going to have a knife sticking through it. And I'll have a picture of my subject up in the corner there for you to look at as I'm painting. I promise mentally I'm doing perfectly all right. No ideas of self-harm or violence or anything like that. This is just something I've had in mind for quite a while now, and I mentioned in my color mixing video, but my sticky note for this painting is right here. And so my single focus for this painting is I want this to be a master study in the style of the artist Rebecca LeVay. And so master studies don't need to just be a copy of a work. You can also take a look at an artist's style like I'm doing today. You could do a study of the color choices they made for a specific painting. You can copy their brushwork. The sky's the limit to what you can do with a master study. So I'm going to choose my own subject for this painting, this red pepper, but I'm going to try and channel Rebecca LeVay in my stylistic choices. And so for me, I've painted colors that are a little bit similar to a painting that I'm looking at for reference. And most importantly, I want my paint strokes and paint application to look like hers generally do in her paintings. And I'll talk a little bit more of that as we go along. But for now, let's get some paint on this canvas. It's actually been a couple weeks since I've made a painting in the studio. And I am so gosh darn excited to be back. I did some different art over the past couple weeks, which was thoroughly enjoyable. So I have had art in my life over the past couple weeks, but I have not touched paint, and I'm so excited to touch paint. So I'm taking this dark kind of greenish, bluish black that I mixed, and I'm going to use that for the outline, basically, of everything that I'm drawing here. Rebecca is a very linear driven artist, so her works, usually the line is very harsh and exposed. It's not realism, it's style. So I'm taking a look at a picture that I took of my knife and my pepper, and I'm gonna just very simply sketch in something. Accuracy is not that important to me in this piece. What matters is the style of the thing. So even if this doesn't end up looking exactly like my pepper, that's okay. I don't really care about that too much. And I'm just getting this down. I can tweak it later. But this will help me to get some bearings. For Rebecca, a lot of her work is all about gesture. She usually draws people, but the energy of the line really matters in her works. I know that from looking at her work, and I also know that because she's talked about it in a podcast I've listened to recently. John Dalton, if you want to check out his podcast, I think it's called Gently Does It, and it's cool. I love his interviews. I love his quirky personality. He's this really interesting mix of kind of a dour figure, but also quirky. I don't know. I love the guy. I'd love to meet him in person someday. And I'm backing up now and taking a look at this and making sure that this composition is what I want. And at the moment it's not quite right, and I need to decide what. I think what I don't like about this is that the knife is tilting down at an angle. I think I want it to be a little bit more horizontal. And I think I want the handle of this knife to be larger as well. So let's see. I'll make a line right there for where I want the end of this knife to be. Then I'll make a line right here for where I want the metal to start. Now I'll make a horizontal gesture. And I can use some of my solvent to wipe away this black if I need to, if I want to get like a clearer view. I'll probably do that in a minute. Let's see, I don't want this knife edge to be too close to the edge. And our handle's going to do something like that, wavy W. Put a little marker there for the stem. And okay. I'll take another brush, dip it in some solvent, and let's wipe away some of these lines. Whoop. All right, and let's wipe. This just gets away some of the extraneous business that I don't want to look at while I'm finishing this drawing. You can go far with solvent. You wouldn't believe how much of this I could wipe away. I don't really care to wipe away too much except for areas where I want this blue to show up as in underpainting. But for now, I want to focus on the drawing aspect. So let's lean back and take a look. This is much closer to what I wanted. And there are some changes I'm going to make to the handle. I want there to be a bit of a up to down feeling in the handle. Even more than that. I want this to be a beautiful knife. Curvaceous, like a Coke bottle. And while I'm tweaking this, let me try and talk about something I started during my color mixing, but didn't finish. And that was, I was talking about setting art goals. At the time of this recording, it's pretty close to New Year's still. And I've created some art goals for this year. Things that I personally want to improve in. I wanted to share those with you and challenge you at some level to maybe think about what you want out of your art this year. Some people get stressed out by that idea. And that's okay. This isn't something you have to do. But sometimes coming up with a bit of a plan can even just give you inspiration. Even if you don't revisit the plan later and say, how am I doing? Honestly, I don't usually revisit my plans. Every single year I do personal plans and goals. And throughout the year I almost never look at it. It's more just the act of doing the planning that helps me out, that keeps me inspired and encouraged. But anyways, so for my personal art goals for this year, I've got two. The first one is I want to spend more time in the basics, studying just the basic principles of art, values, color, all that stuff. And then my second goal for this year is I want to do more casual art making in the evening. And for me, that's pencil drawing. Nothing fancy. I just want to spend more time with Pinterest open on my phone, or sitting downstairs watching TV in the evenings anyways. So I just want to take that TV time and rather than just mindlessly flip through my phone, I want to do Pinterest drawings in pencil, just a mechanical pencil. And so I've been doing that for about 2 weeks now. It's mid-January at this point. And I've got to say, my love of art is totally renewed just from these dumb little pencil drawings. I'm really thriving from it. It's taken a lot of the pressure off art. I have more pressure in art than I ever have before. Because now, I have painting process that I share with people, and that's pressure. I have a gallery that I'm making artwork for. There's pressure. And it's so easy when you're caught up with all these expectations to, just create the same art you'll always make. To create with fear of what if this doesn't turn out well. And so my main goal in just doing casual drawing in the evenings is to have fun. That's how I started with art. 3.5, 4 years ago, I would just get on Pinterest and draw a whole bunch of faces. I would just do portrait drawings. And I did it just for stress relief. Did it because I loved it. And I learned so much from doing that. I became a much better artist. But most importantly, I found so much joy. I discovered art. I discovered how much happiness it brought me. And that's the main reason I do art. It's the main reason I want to continue to do art. I want that to be my motivation. So I'm trying to channel my earlier art self, my younger self, the things that made me happy and drove me. And to do that, I'm just creating more casual art. I also mentioned in the previous video that I have goals of building an art business. And that's what this is. If you guys are watching this, then that probably means you're a Patreon subscriber, which is a new thing that I've started for 2020. And thank you so much for supporting my artwork. That's part of my art goal is to do regular videos, regular YouTube videos. I want to teach and inspire people, and hopefully get people to come join me along the way in making art, in finding happiness from creating art, in building up their own art businesses. So anyways, those are some of my goals for this year. And I challenge you guys to make some too. It can be really helpful. When my wife and I go on vacations, we do what I call skeleton planning. And what I mean by that is we come up with a very, very loose plan for the vacation. Say we're doing a road trip through California or something. our plan would be 3 days in Sacramento, 2 days in San Francisco, 3 days in Laguna Beach, whatever. So we have just a very general plan of where we need to be, but then we leave everything else open and free for whatever happens, whatever inspires us at the time. And that's what we call skeleton planning. We don't plan the vacation to death, but we do have a little bit of a plan just to make sure that we can make the most out of the trip. I feel like I'm kind of rambling. Sorry, it's been a while since I've made a video, and man, it takes some getting used to talking to absolutely no one on a screen. But skeleton planning for your artwork could be a good way for you to do some planning to, get a bit of a direction, but not stress yourself out too much. So let's get back to this painting. I want to start with this pepper, because this pepper is going to be my focal point. And one of the things I really want to take care for in this is that I don't kill the underpainting. This blue that's popping out, I want that blue to still be around by the end of the painting. That way the red and the blue can play off each other. I think that will be such a cool effect. And so right now I'm mixing a blue in oil that's going to be kind of similar to this acrylic underpainting that I've created. And I'm going to touch up some areas there. I'll do the same thing with the knife. Just a little bit of touch up. And I'll also probably make like a lighter version of the blue in some areas here. And I think those will play off each other pretty well. The reason I am really into these master studies lately is because for me it's an active way to soak up influence. You're influenced by the artists that you look at. And so even just, being on Instagram, like spending time looking at artists is a great way to build up your style, because you're mentally building up a sort of mental art library by looking at stuff. You're gathering influences. But doing paintings of master studies is like that on steroids. You're really living in a certain artist's artistic decisions. And that gets you towards a style much faster than if you're just looking at other artists. If you were just painting things in your own style all the time. I'm trying to train my hand to do new things that my hand has never done before. And master studies are great for that. I talk about finding your art style, and I talk about studies a lot because I think it's something that I have novel ideas about. But if you really do want to develop a unique style, then doing master studies is like a cheat code, you guys. It's so powerful. And the more people that you pull influence from, the more unique your style is going to look. You're going to look like a clone of somebody if, you follow one artist. If you paint like one artist, then you won't look unique. You'll honestly probably be like a slightly not as good version of that artist if you spend all your time doing that. But if you pull influence from all kinds of different people, then you'll start creating something that nobody's ever created before. And that, I think, is just stupendous. It's the point. Okay, so I freed up some of these black areas from being too black. That way some blue can pop out. I want that blue pop. And now I can finally get into this pepper like I said I was going to. Oh, I have a feeling I'm going to be distracted today. Because I haven't painted in a while. I haven't talked in a while. But hopefully you guys get some good stuff out of this. Alright, so Rebecca has the most interesting reds. So I knew I had to look at some of her paintings to get these reds. She uses very earthy tones of red that are slightly cool. And I've mixed a bunch of them here. For starters, I'm going to find a dominant line. And get a really confident stroke of red right there. And then from there, Rebecca uses like interconnected lines with underpainting showing through them. And that's the effect that I want to try to generate with this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to swoop, swoop, like that. Then let's warm up. I've got a warmer red here. Swoop. Swoop. Okay, and we'll use that same warmer red. I'm going to make a vertical line. Right there. So this is me copying her style as I understand it. It's such a neat effect. She does it on skin tones a lot, and oh man, it's just super duper cool. Now I find she does preserve like a really dominant red for one area, so I might come back here and find a red to really take the lead. But first, let's keep going with these swoops. Let's do that. Part of my preparation for this, I used some artificial intelligence to help me out. And you may be asking, what does artificial intelligence have to do with artwork? Well, there's something called style transfer that AI people are researching. And there are actually artificial intelligence programs now that you can take a picture and then ask the artificial intelligence to take that picture and transform it into a different artistic style. And I'll do a whole video about this sometime soon. I'll probably post it on YouTube. But basically, you can use a computer to take a guess at an artist's style and impose that style on a picture. Examples up there in the corner. So Doesn't sound like I'm just talking Chinese. But yeah, so I generated some of these using pictures of Rebecca's artwork. And I think the results were pretty dang cool. Pretty interesting. Okay, so let's see. I've got some good movement in this pepper, but I want less of the underpainting to show through. And I think I want some more dominant lines. So I've got a lighter, kind of peachy sort of color here. And I'm going to focus on using that on the outside a little bit. I'm using a lot of paint, and so it's getting a little blendy. I might have to use some medium in a minute to kind of tame this paint a little bit. But for now, I think we're doing okay. Almost looks like a beating heart that's been stabbed by a knife. Wowie zowie. This is turning into an emo painting. I love it. Love it, love it. Okay, and then let's connect some of these lines together. I want to do more master studies of Rebecca LeVay. Style is such an interesting thing. For painting, I don't think there's anything wrong at all with going for hyperrealism, trying to make something look just like the thing. I think that's great. But what's interesting about style is it's something that cameras don't do. Something that artists' minds do. And now artificial intelligence, apparently. So, I think this is just a beautiful realm for painters. You're doing something that a camera doesn't. Okay. I'm liking this less as I add more lines. So I think what I need to do is take a break from that and move on to the knife. I will quickly add a stem. And then let's get on with this knife. I'm going to do 2 passes of this painting. After the first pass, I might mix some colors. I'll take a step back and look at things, see what's working, see what's not. So with this knife, I really want to focus on line and gesture. I think, okay. Still want curve. I want this to be a curvy painting, even though the knife is straight. Gonna make it a curvy knife. Alrighty. And I want to preserve this black outline as much as I can too. I think I want that to be a part of the final painting. I might have to paint over to bring it back in certain areas. Let's get this real dark green. And that's an important line, I think. Yeah. Another thing I wrote down to talk about today was a little bit of social media marketing. I've had a lot of conversations recently about Instagram and how to build up a following. My wife actually asked me about it the other day, which is funny. I don't talk marketing with her too much, but she's started an account for her hand lettering. She's a beautiful hand lettering artist. She's just started with it too. It's amazing how naturally art comes to her. Makes me a little upset, actually. It's not fair. She's gonna get so good so fast. But so she was asking about how she could build her following on Instagram. And I've had conversations about that with others recently too. So I had some ideas for her. And I thought I would share some of those ideas during today's painting too. It helps to think about what the point is of social mediums like Instagram or Facebook. I'll use Instagram as my example because that's the one I know best, and that's the one a lot of artists tend to focus on. But think about what Instagram wants. What's their main goal as a company, as a business? Their main goal is to increase the amount of engagement on their app. And by engagement, I mean scrolling through Instagram for as long as possible. They want people interested in what they're seeing so that they stick around, spend more time on the app, see more ads, whatever. Everything that comes with engagement is what they're aiming for. And so if you think about that's what Instagram's goal is, then they're going to promote and show people who have engaged viewers. If you create work regularly that people just aren't interested in, then Instagram is going to start showing people other Instagram accounts other than yours, because they want people on their app for as long as possible. For them, it's all about engagement. And so if you want to build a bigger Instagram following, if you want more followers, if you want more attention, more likes, then you should focus on creating the most engaging content possible. And so you can take a look at all of your posts and see which ones people have responded to the most. And that can be a good guideline for you of maybe the types of content that you want to produce. Say you posted a video of your studio and people just seem to really love it, or a snapshot of one of your works in progress. Whatever captured people's attention, try to create more stuff like that. There are many different ways to push engagement on a social medium. People might be engaged with you because you're really inspiring to them. You have words of encouragement. People could be engaged with you because you're educational. You convey good information that people want to know about creating art. Or, you might have engagement because you create something that people are interested in. Like maybe you make paintings of different people's hobbies. And so they come back to you because they want to see another painting of a fishing boat out on a river. There's so many different ways to engage people. But you can decide, like, what makes you happiest on social media? Like, what do you think your strength is? What do you put out there in the world that drives people's interest? And just start making more stuff like that. Instagram will use the metrics of how many likes, how many comments, probably how much time looking at the picture. And that'll be Instagram's measurement for whether you're engaging users. So you can spend time thinking about those metrics too as you create content. And I know whenever we talk about marketing related issues, it can be stressful, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's stressful to think about marketing. Most of us artists just want to create art. We don't want to have to worry about, selling ourselves out to people. And I totally respect and understand that. I would say for social media, you should focus on what you think you're good at, what makes you happy, and think of your followers as your friends. These are people who, they follow you for a reason. They follow you because they decide they like you. So it's not like you're trying to win their favor. You've already won. You've already got their favor. So maybe think of your social medium as just talking to friends. And I think that can alleviate some of the anxiety that comes with the word marketing, quote unquote. Because I know that word is a stressful word. I don't like it either. I like marketing, but I don't like the connotations. I've been doing marketing professionally for over 10 years. And one of the things that I found out about it is a lot of it's really just being friendly and social and putting yourself out there. It's kind of like the dating scene in a way, or something like that. You're putting yourself out there. And I know for us introverts, that's a bit of a terrifying thought. I don't want to put myself out there. I just want to paint in my studio, be left alone. I want to make something beautiful. But I think deep down, a part of us does want to put ourselves out there too. We all want more art friends. We want encouragement from social circles. We want more social life and social circles than we have right now. And you get that by putting yourself out there. Easier said than done, for sure. Man, I've had some introverted seasons in my life, and I've had some depressed seasons in my life where putting myself out there did not seem like an easy thing to do. But with marketing, as with all things, something is better than nothing. So baby steps are steps. Excuse me. And so if you want to try and get into marketing more, then do baby steps. You know, baby steps are great. They're moving in the right direction. Trying to get some cool gestural lines here. Kind of inspired by the wood that I'm looking at, and also kind of inspired by my cutting board, which has all these really interesting strokes, slices going through it. Now this could quickly become way too busy, but I can always tone it back. And you know, as this is moving along, I'm liking it way more than when I just had this. I still don't love my lines there, but I do feel like this painting is coming together a bit more. So let's keep at it. Got some browns mixed up here, and so let's lay some of these down. And I want to keep a lot of blue. Keeping that in mind as I'm making these strokes, that I don't want to cover all my blue. A lot of the style in this piece is going to come from that blue underpainting popping out. And the name of the game is Gestural Lines for Rebecca LeVay. She is a queen of gesture. Makes the whole painting seem to flow like water. It's stunning. She is very talented. So I'll cover more here. I like this color brown. You can do this too with any artist that you love. If you want to do a style study, then just choose your subject first. So for mine, my subject was this knife and this pepper. And then choose what you want to copy in an artist's style. And if you've never done it before, then a good starting point is color. Just look at the artist's painting and try and mix their colors. It doesn't even have to be realistic. You could, paint this pepper yellow. if the artist's painting had yellow in it instead, whatever. But a good starting point for a master study is just copying their colors. And then everything else, you do how you normally do. You start running on autopilot once you get to the other aspects of the painting. For me, I'm running on autopilot for a lot of the aspects of this painting. I'm not spending a lot of time thinking about getting accurate lines. I'm not spending any energy on realism. All of my mental RAM is going to Rebecca's brushwork, trying to make this piece have a little bit of the feel of her piece. So here, I've got a little bit of paint on every part of the canvas, and now I want to take a step back and just look at this. So here we go. I'm actually scooting back, and I'm going to examine this for a minute. Alrighty, so I've taken a step back. I've looked and seen what I like about this painting, what I don't like about this painting. I've mixed a couple colors, and I'm ready to jump in for my second pass. I really do think that every painting has kind of an ugly stage where you just don't like the piece. It looks dowdy. There's just something about it that's not right. And in a sense, that's where I feel that this painting is, because it's in the middle stage. But there are some things I really like about this. So I want to take a minute to talk through what I think works here, what I think doesn't work here. I think the blue jumping out from the background on this knife is probably the biggest winner of this painting so far. I love how the blue almost says it all about the metal, and it imparts this style to it. They're still dark, they're still light, but the blue just is working for me. I also like some of the gestures of this background. I think I might tweak a couple things. I might change the gesture down here. I might change the gesture right here. But I do think something about these lines is pretty powerful. I think in the end, I'll probably use a smaller brush, and I'll probably thin my paint a little bit with Gamsol for better coverage and flow. But there are certain things about that movement that I really like. I like these vertical lines right here, and that's very Rebecca, I think, so I count that something of a success so far. And gosh, this pepper is not really doing anything for me right now, but I feel like with a little bit of work, I can get something cool going on there. So that's what I was thinking of as I slid back for a minute, took a look, grabbed a drink, took a picture and looked at the picture on my phone. All that stuff was some of the techniques I used to sort of analyze this. So diving back in for my second pass, I want to start with this pepper. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is use a different brush. So I've got this hog's hair brush. I think I might dive in with this and just kind of see what happens with it. Another issue I've discovered is I'm recording from a different angle. I'm having to deal with glare. Something I usually don't face because I don't usually have daylight to paint by. Daylight's usually coming at me from the other end. So I've got some glare that I think is also making my work harder. So I'm going to take a minute to do an easel adjustment. Actually, this is going to help me a lot as I paint. I know the angle probably makes it a little harder for you to see what's going on, but I'll definitely tilt this back at the end and make sure you get a good look at it. Okay, so let's get started here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reinforce my outline. So actually I am going to return to my original brush for that. Let's reinforce the outline because we lost it and I want to keep it. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the outline move in a gesture around the stem. Again, the focus for me is not accuracy. It's beauty. Okay. Yeah. I might experiment with not drawing the outline where the knife is. and see if that suggests stabbiness a little. The fact that I made this a little bit taller actually makes this pepper look even more like a heart. And man, I'm really finding that idea kind of intriguing. A heart stabbed with a knife. We'll see if I take that any further. Yeah, I think reinforcing that line is the way to go. Especially for getting Rebecca LeVay style. So now that I got that outline, let's get a new brush. And let's start with the red. I keep wanting to touch that green, but I need to stay focused. So I think my most successful line is just about the first one that I did. I want to start there. I like how some of that blue actually got carved back out. Let's continue with this gesture. Down there. This almost looks like veins. I think I liked this the most when it was more horizontal, less chopped up. So I'm actually going to pull these lines through. I think that's going to unify things a little better. Make it look less like a matrix and more like something that has form to it. Yeah. It's already looking a little better to me. I'm going to reinforce this vertical. Okay. It's coming together a bit. Let's get that vertical in there. Good. A little something at the very top. I think I'll use a different color for that. Okay. Let's go warmer. Alright, we're getting a little gloopy. I'm going to go back to my other brush. Not quite competent enough with that hog's hair brush yet to get it to do what I want. especially in a fine space like this. Let's see. Why don't we get a bit of a darker red? I keep going lighter and warmer, and it just looks like a muddy mess to me. So rather than struggle through that, let's get something totally different in here. A darker, cooler red. Let's see how we feel about a couple of these strokes. I think this is closer to where we want to be. Yeah, this is closer, I think. All right, now let's get some highlights. And then I'll reinforce some oranges as well. So for highlights, I mixed this kind of purple. Real light purple. And yeah, that's all right. A little bit more right there. Okay. Yeah, now let's get some orangey yellows. Let's go more yellow than we did before. Is that too much? We can always push it back. Maybe a bit too much. Man, something about this I do like. Get some Rebecca LeVay hatching lines going on here. Kind of reminiscent of Van Gogh. All right. right, wow, that is one weird veggie. I might revisit that, but I certainly like it way more than I did initially. We're definitely moving in the right direction. I need a green that works. So I'm mixing a bunch more yellow into the green that I had. Let's get some more out on our palette. Get the rest off my fingers. Alright, let's see, that's better. Oh man, that is so spooky. I love it. I love it, I love it. Alright, let's give some TLC to the knife. We want to make sure we don't paint away what we like about this. I said I liked that blue popping through. So I want to make sure I don't annihilate all the blue. In fact, the knife might be the best spot to leave a bunch of the blue, and I'll cover up more blue with the background. That's what I'm thinking right now. I'm going to start off going real dark with this handle. One lovely stroke. Then this part of the handle is real dark too. Yeah, awesome. And then let's reinforce some of my lines. I want this to be super linear. So I'm gonna draw with my brush, put that black line back in there. Cool. Alright, and I keep looking back up at my Rebecca LeVay inspiration as well. Kind of see what brushstroke choices she made. And one of the things I've noticed is on the inside, she almost recreates the gesture of the drawing and then connects with kind of some spiderweb lines going perpendicular to that. Might make sense if I do one and then show it to you. Okay, so let's get this like deep blue. And I'm gonna repeat the gesture of this line here. Then it curves down. Then she spiderwebs like this. That's what I mean. Perpendicular lines. Okay, let's do a bit of that on this side too. Draw. fascinating. All right, now let's go lighter. We'll draw that. And spider web. And then let's see, it goes a little bluer here, and then a little more cerulean here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to brush mix a light cerulean for right there. And then I'm going to brush mix a blue for the other side. Then again here. Alrighty. Yeah, and then blue. Okay, now for this handle, let's go a bit purple. Didn't I say there was purple in that? Now I don't want this to be the star of the show in terms of color, but I do want to give it a little something. So let's take this purpley blue, add some red to it. Yeah, there we go. It's not sticking. For that, solvent-free gel is the trick. Put this into your mixture, 25% of the mixture or less. You don't want too much of this stuff. And this is going to help me get sticky. Good for the second pass. See how that flows differently? Then a little bit bluer. Okay. I want this lower part to actually be even more purple than that. So let's squeeze out some more red. squeeze out both my reds. And we'll put a little bit of each. Yeah, that purple's going to make more of a statement. I'm going to clean my brush so it's as purple as possible. A little bit of that solvent-free gel to help me stick. And then, yeah. Bit of color in that handle. Alright, so now let's give some love to the background. I'm going to start with this shadow shape here. And as I squint my eyes, the shadow is lighter than this handle and darker against this reflected area. It's not a super duper dark shadow though, but I do want to show some contrast here. I want this to be visibly lighter than the handle. That way that gesture of the handle really stands out. And I'm looking at how she does backgrounds now. Does she do textures differently in the background compared to the foreground? Looks like she uses more paint for the background. And that's good to know. She also has a lot of freedom in her shapes. There's a lot of flowing and repetitive patterns. So I'm keeping that in mind as I start drawing this out again. Let's take, this is the color I used for the background before, and it was too cool. It was also too dark. So I'm mixing in some red and some white. And it's going to make it look almost purple, like a dull purple. And I think that may be a good color choice for this shadow area. Let's test it out. There's contrast there. Yeah. Okay, and let's draw this. I like that flow right there. It's kind of inspiring me. Let's see if I can create some more of that flow around the shadow shape. I'm annihilating my blue by doing this, but I've already decided I really want the blue to pop in the knife. Okay, let's take this other kind of purplish color and see if I can make some interesting pattern out of this drop shadow area. I like that. I'm looking at a painting of a peacock right now. Must be inspiring me. It's pretty cool. Okay, and now let's try and unite that drop shadow with the rest of the background area, if possible. We'll see. Okay, so for starters, let's get this medium brown. And there were some changes to this gesture. What did I want to do here? I like this curve up here. Now what do I want that curve to do down there? I think let's have it wrap there, but then go around there. Is that what I want? Because I think I like this movement there. So let's keep that movement. I'm going to thin this out with solvent. That's going to help me draw these lines better, because my paint will go further. This gesture is going to be the heart of this painting. If you don't know what gesture is, I'm going to make a video about it soon. If you practice life drawing, that's the best way to get gesture. But it's kind of the overall sweeping line that describes the motion of the piece. And there's motion even in something that's sitting still. If that makes any sense at all. There is a sense of movement to all line. And the gesture is the heart of that movement. It's that descriptive arc. So hard to even talk about gesture. It's kind of a tricky subject to describe. There's a figure drawing guy that I learned a lot from, and he talks about gesture in a way that makes a lot of sense. What is his name? If I think of his name, I'll bring it up. Now this might be far too much movement for a background. So I might go the way of the peacock with this here. And still some of this movement. But first off, I need to mix some browns. I want to bring in some of this purple into this area too. So I'm going to make a light purple kind of brownish color. I'll take all the rest of my brown and just mix it up into one pile. And then I'm just going to throw in different bits from my palette to move towards a brown color. And I always know if I want to neutralize the color further, then all I need to do is add the complement. Let's use a big brush, the biggest one I've got here. And let's try and get some of this movement into this flowy area. We'll start with this light reddish color that I've mixed. And I'm making like kind of eddies, like waves, in between some of these lines. And what I'm hoping that'll do is calm some of the movement of the background. Maybe that'll make it worse. Who knows? We'll find out. We're certainly going to have something interesting. And I do want to keep some blue. I'm also trying to preserve some of that general arc of movement, even though I'm covering some of the lines. And let's get some more solvent. I use the natural stuff that doesn't hurt you. You can see what I use in the description for the video. But I have an all-natural painting studio. No need to use the toxic stuff if you don't want to. You can certainly make the highest level of oil paintings with stuff that won't hurt you. Alright, and this is interesting. This is shaping up to be a very different piece with this blue covered up. I'm going to add other colors of brown to this. But you can see how much that's already changed the character of this painting quite a lot. Quite a lot. I want to include a lighter brown here. The reason for that is because I want the pepper to stand out in value. I want it to be dark. I also want the knife to stand out with its darks and lights. So the darkest and lightest areas of my painting are going to be in the knife and in the pepper. And I want my wood to be more in the middle ground. But we do need to go lighter than this. And let's introduce another color in here. I think a slightly more yellowy brown is gonna take us somewhere. And we're gonna need a bit of it. So again, I'm telling myself, don't skimp, Kyle. Don't skimp. Mix as much as you need right now. Putting a good bit of white in here. Okay, so there's my start, and that's way too yellow. So we neutralize with purple. If you don't have purple, put in red and blue. That makes purple. Good, that's looking more neutral. Let's see here. Still a bit too yellow for my tastes. I'm sure it'd be fine, but I want this to be the star. I want this to be a star. So we'll neutralize further. More blue and red. Purple neutralizes yellow, turns it into brown. And brown is a beautiful color. We think of brown as ugly, but our whole world is neutralized colors. Our whole world is shades of brown. And we live in a beautiful world. Alright, so let's think of the movement that I want. Eddies. We're thinking eddies. I don't want to go crazy or nothing. But I do want to preserve a bit of that sense of flowing water. And I'm also taking care to hopefully not cover up too much of my blue. Yeah, there is a lot of movement in this piece. I have a feeling I'll be doing more master studies of Rebecca LeVay, especially when I get in a mood to do more portraits. She is a master. I've got a portrait drawing class locally that I go to, or portrait painting, I'm sorry, every other week for 3 hours. It's actually figure painting. It's a clothed figure, but I always do portraits there. So I might get some Rebecca LeVay style going on in one soon. Maybe I'll try to record it. I'm sure my group wouldn't mind if I did that. Okay, let's scoot back and, I really want this background to fall more to the background, even more. To do that, I need to go more neutral, and I need to have less variance in my values. I can also make these values stronger. So, and I also should probably arrest some of the movement in this piece if I feel like the background is too strong. So, to do that, let's mix another color. Again, I'm just throwing together my browns. My purples, some reds, some neutral blues. Okay, and that's a bit too samey. Let's make it darker and redder. Oh yeah, I said I wanted some light purples in here, didn't I? Well, I think now is a good time to do that. Okay, that will make a nice light purple. And I think I miss that sweeping movement that I had earlier. So I'm going to bring that back. I want those lines. They were so beautiful. Those big swaths. This is looking a little more trippy than I wanted. And more busy than I wanted. But that's okay. I might fix it by the end, or I might chalk it up to knowledge. Something I'll do better next time. We'll see. I'm not tired of this painting yet, so I'm gonna keep going. I want to get some dark in there, kind of like I had earlier. So let's get some earthy red back on my palette. I'll mix that with Ultramarine Blue and then some of this neutral purple that I have sitting around. And now I need to make it look more brown. Otherwise that color will dominate. That's getting closer. Too dark. Okay, let's try some of that. Again, we need this to stick. So, solvent-free gel. That's our secret weapon. Also, painting more thinly in the early stages. That would be a good secret weapon, too. I want beautiful gestural lines drawn with my arm, not with my wrist or my fingers. I want flow. Yeah, this is turning into a trippy mess, huh? This might be a failed painting. Which is totally okay. I count that a victory. If it does turn out to be a failed painting, who knows? I might be able to salvage it. But if you mess up paintings, it means that you're trying something. What do I need to do here? I think I'm going to blend all the madness of the background and see if that brings me somewhere closer to home. And let's get a big old brush for that. Oh, here we go. I've got one right here. I like these big guys sometimes for the background. And this should take out all the madness. But I should still be able to retain some of this gesture. You'll see it's also going to soften a lot of my edges. And it's also going to eradicate some of my blue background, which I think is unfortunate. But desperate times call for desperate measures. And this painting needs a change. I'm going to take this opportunity to soften the border of my drop shadow in the background. And let's see what we've got. Yeah, I still think this is an ugly painting. How can I make this better? I'm gonna go blocky with the design, using this for the background. Adding some kind of darker and lighter element. Larger shapes for the background. And then, oh boy, I don't know. We'll see if I can find something to save this guy. You might be looking at this and thinking, I love it. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. A lot of this art stuff is subjective. But I think objectively, there's too much of a stylistic difference between the background and the foreground. Now there's nothing going on in the background. The colors are too different in the background. If I had elements of the other colors throughout, it'd make the piece look more contiguous. Throwing in some of those blues and reds will make it seem less like the center is just cut out and pasted on. Maybe. Yeah, this is pure damage control at this point. I'm not sure if I'll be able to be happy with the finished result of this painting, to be honest. You know, I'm not totally surprised though, because I'm also rusty. As I said, I've been out of the studio for weeks. So while I'm a king with the pencil right now, I'm a joker when it comes to the paintbrush. But that's okay, this joker will do something. What if we try a hard line here for our drop shadow? And then, what if we use this black to reinforce the drawing aspect in the background? Things looked a lot more unified in the beginning. I'll repeat that shape here. While also keeping these lines down below. Okay, keep going with these lines. We'll figure something out, right? I'll save you painting. I won't let you die. It'll be alright. Okay, now what if we reinforce some of those lines with lighter versions of the colors that are in my pepper and my knife? That will give us the aspect of color sharing, where you can see bits of those colors throughout the whole painting, which will unify. It'll also make the background a little bit more interesting. I do want neutralized versions though. So let's see, I've got this pinky sort of color here. What if right around there I gave some of that color love? Even put a touch in the shadow. Alright, let's put some blue in there. We'll save this, you guys, we'll save it. Get a little bit more. Whoops. When you want to save your painting, don't tip it on yourself. That's alright. We'll get some more white. All of my clothes at this point are covered in paint. I should get like an apron or something, because every pair of running shorts that I own, it's battered. Alright, let's see, real quick I'll draw over some of the areas I just smudged. I don't think I smudged too many areas actually. That, a little bit of this blue right there. Okay, and I think I might have smudged that dark area a bit too. Okay, that's good. Now, I said I wanted to bring blue into the background. Normally, if I had left some blue gaps open, that would have done the work for me. But those got annihilated during my rampage. My rampage of experimentation. That's kind of cool. Do some fat lines of blue. Varying my brush stroke size to add visual interest. Okay. Let's get another blue too. We'll go a little bold in a few spots. Too bold? Nah. Okay. I want to reinforce some of the colors in this shadow area too. But I want them to be like a bit darker, a bit more purpley. The reason why I think this is saving the painting is because I'm making the background linear. There was a stylistic problem with the foreground and the background. And so by adding painted line work, again, I'm making this whole thing feel more like a unified style. Okay, yeah, so shadows. Let's make a darker purple. Okay. More bluey version. And let's see. I'm going to move back to the pepper and the knife. And one of the things I really want out of this painting is for the darks and the lights to be darkest and lightest around the pepper and the knife. So I'm going to add some touches that will embolden these a little bit. Let's see. So for that, I'm looking at my picture right now. I'm squinting my eyes and trying to see where the lightest thing is. And it's right there. So I want to take some time and reinforce that that's the lightest light. Now I could choose to place the lightest light somewhere else actually. So let me think about that for a minute. If I want the focal point to be the pepper, I should probably make that lighter, even though technically that's a lighter spot. So yeah, I'm going to do that. So what I want is a light purple. And I'll make it super duper light. Solvent-free gel on that sucker. We'll see what we think. I wish it was redder. But who knows? I'm de-yellowing some of this. I'm just trying whatever I can at this point. How can I make this more likable for me? And you know what? There's no shame in just saying, I'm done. I tried. It's over. A lot of my worst paintings start looking exactly like this. Big smudger lines. So that to me is a bit of a sign of the end. But you know what? We could save it. I like the background a lot better. So there's no reason why I might not be able to save this pepper too. Let's find the lines of this pepper that I really love. I was a huge fan of this swoop. What if I make a big fat version of that swoop there? And then go in with a medium reddish color and then reinforce some of these lines. No matter what happens, I can chalk it up to experience. I'll be a better painter even with a bad painting. I do want that black right there. And there. And some orangey. And a touch of green. That'll reinforce the pepperness a little bit, I think. Okay, and now let's shore up those lines up here. Alright, let's back up and observe. I think I need lighter value reds, and I need brighter colors of red. And the knife looks a little unfinished to me now, with all the blue poking out. So I might do something about that. I'm not ready to call it quits. I'm not ready to give up on you yet. But it would be a miracle if I salvaged this. I do like it better, though, than I did 20 minutes ago. That's a success, at least. Let's see, a nice, light, saturated red color. Actually, it needs to be more orange than red. It's funny, we look at something and we think of it as red, like an apple. An apple's red, of course. But if you use your artist's eye, sometimes red is not red, but something else entirely. You always want your right brain to make the decision. Part of the brain that really observes. Not the left side of your brain that's always saying, well, balls are always perfect circles. Eyeballs look like this. Betty Edwards, I think is her name, wrote a book called Drawing from the Right Side of the Brain. And if you want to be better at drawing accurately, I can't think of a better place to start than that book. Definitely inspired me. Okay, and then a slightly oranger version of that same thing. Get some more yellow for that. And then let's throw some of that color in the background. All right. And let's dig into the knife. And for the knife, I'm going to paint away some of the blue with something akin to grays. So this is a mid-tone gray color that I used for the drop shadow, but I want it to be purpler and more colorful than that drop shadow. So let's try that. Okay. Sure. Let's put that on this side too. And then let's get like a dark blue that's very blue. We'll cover up some of our blue backdrop elements with that as well. All right. Sure. Sure. All right. I'm going to call this done. Who knows? I may come back to this in half a day and just love the heck out of it. That's how it goes with paintings sometimes. You let it just sit and you revisit it and suddenly it's just beautiful to you. Either way though, this was a great painting experience. I got to try some painting. Finally back in the studio after all that time away. And for the first time ever, I got to practice in the style of an artist that I really love and respect. So this has been an awesome opportunity. Don't feel discouraged if you hate what you produced, because that's one bad painting that you'll never make again. If you want to make really great paintings, the best thing you can do is to risk making some absolute bombs because you tried something new. You took a challenge. Let's sign this puppy and stick a fork in it because I'm done. All right. Thanks for painting today with me, friends. Happy painting, everyone.